Perfect. Now we're recording. Hi, and welcome to the September 12th. I just checked my calendar. Cribl Global User Group meeting. We have a couple of things in store for today. And I don't know if we have any other real announcements to make. Tony, do you know of any other like regular announcements? We can also do those afterwards too.
We'll do it at the end.
Okay, we'll do some at the end. And if you stick around, remember, there's always a swag roll for somebody to get some cool swag. We are, just full disclosure, including ourselves in this, not for me, but because my wife is joining us from the same account, so we don't have a separate one. So don't worry, whatever swag we get, if any,
goes to mine.
Anyway, we'll let this last person or two, and then John, it would be up to you if you're ready to go then.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let me share my screen.
Perfect.
Make sure I share the right one.
I figure we'll take a few seconds to get everything sorted out and get you started, and then that'll work.
I see. You folks see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Yes. All right, perfect. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining the call. I think this might be one of my first times attending the user group. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Johan, and I'm a senior technical support engineer here at Cribl. And I've probably worked a few cases with you. So if I have, well, that's great. And if not, then you now know who I am. Just a quick background on myself. Basically have over a decade of experience supporting enterprise software. I've worked at company that rhymes with drunk for a while. I worked at another company that is a competitor for Tableau, all in different capacities, from building out support teams and SRE teams to managing teams. And now I work at this lovely company. And I joined the call today because I wanted to talk to you about an app that I developed along with a few of my coworkers. And specifically, it's the Cribl Vision app for Splunk. And what exactly is this app? It's basically a troubleshooting tool and monitoring aid for Cribl admins. And the reason we created this was for us in support to try and help our customers troubleshoot and monitor their own Cribl stream deployments. And what does it contain? It just contains, like any other Splunk app, it contains a bunch of troubleshooting dashboards, which are tailored for certain product areas where we see a lot of recurring issues. And, just more in general, it's just an app just to help you troubleshoot things as quickly as possible and to help us help you troubleshoot things while we're on calls with you, if you're a Splunk customer and you're sending all your data to Splunk. So I'm going to try to keep the slides really, really short. So I'm just going to go straight to the demo of the app. And after the demo, I'll show you how we can get to the app and how it can be downloaded, because it is not hosted on Splunk base. And then I'll open it up to questions. And if anybody wants to see any other portions of the app, since I won't be demoing the whole thing, then I'm happy to click around and show it. So let's get straight to it. When you first install the app, you're going to be taken to a welcome screen. I'm not going to read through all this, but everything here is fairly self-explanatory. There's a nice little getting started page, some tidbits that I put in here, and how to configure the app. Just for those of you that are Splunk admins, this app requires minimal configuration. The only thing you have to do is, of course, you have to send your Cribl internal logs to a logs index in Splunk, and all of the Cribl internal metrics to a metrics index in Splunk. And then you configure macros that we include with the app to point to those indexes and those source types. So moving along, one of the dashboards that I want to show you is our health check dashboard. Now, keep in mind, everything here will always and forever be a work in progress. So a lot of the stuff that I'm showing here today, might change in the next couple of weeks as we add more features, etc. But this health check dashboard is just intended to work on a per node basis for now. And we basically just give you a quick snapshot of what we think in support are some common things that you should be aware of, like CPU usage, memory, We show you the number of unhealthy sources, destinations, communication errors, worker process restarts, block destinations, and destinations with PQ engaged. We feel that these are kind of just like very high level things that you should be aware of. Some customers aren't always aware of these things, but hopefully with this app, we can bubble this up. We are going to make this so it is fully clickable and you can drill down to actually see a list of everything, but in its current state, it is not because we're still trying to iron some things out on the back end on how to properly display this. And for now, this is only on a per host or per node dropdown. Since I know this is going to be asked, we are planning on having this health check be displayed on a per worker group basis with a dropdown. So you can see on a per worker group level if your worker group level or your worker group is healthy or not. Moving along, and one thing I should add here, every single dashboard in here has a how to use button. It's just everything in here for the most part should be self-explanatory, but if you're not sure what you're looking at, then we give you a little window here that kind of gives you an explanation as to how, what this dashboard is supposed to do and how to use it. The other really interesting one here that we've already seen used quite a bit and has helped out a lot of our customers is our Cribl Stream sizing calculator. So for those of you that have gone through the planning exercise with our SCs or maybe our professional services team, you'll know that we have a sizing calculator that's available online. Well, we brought that back directly into a dashboard. So now it's baked into the Splunk app. And all you do is you select the worker node, you select your corresponding CPU speed and your CPU architecture, and you click submit. And it's going to output a certain some key information here. First one being your current worker process count that's configured for the worker node, the estimated processing throughput per vCPU that this worker node can do, and also the total throughput per the worker node per day that it can do. We also give you some high level metrics as to the total throughput that we've seen over the selected time range. And this is where the fun stuff begins. We then give you a printout of over the selected time range. So in this particular example, over the last 7 days, this dashboard is telling me that for the amount of data that I've processed here, I really only need to have one worker process configured. So this immediately gives you an idea if you're currently undersized, oversized, or right-sized. Furthermore, down here, it gives you a breakdown on a per day basis, how many worker processes would have been needed on each one of those days. So if you come here and you see an estimated worker process count required, that's greater than what you have configured here, then it's either time to start upsizing CPU or horizontally scaling your worker nodes to try to reduce that count. Now, this isn't strictly speaking, throughput isn't the only time you're going to want to consider whether a node needs to be upsized or not, depending on the data that's flowing through and how much processing you're doing on that data. For example, if you have some pipelines that are doing some very heavy processing with custom code functions and very large events, you might run into cases where your worker processes are very CPU starved. And one of the key ways to determine that is to look at the percentage over a period of time that your worker processes exceeded 90% CPU usage. And this is what this panel here shows you. So for the selected time range, we can see here that my worker processes haven't really been doing much as far as CPU usage, and they really only spend not even less than 1% time over 90% CPU usage. So this is another metric, because if you see a very high percentage here, or this nearly, above close to 100%, spent above that CPU, that 90% CPU usage mark, then it's either time to evaluate what those pipelines are doing, or perhaps also, just add a few more worker processes to be able to handle that data. This panel here on the right side just shows you, it's a different metric that we use. It's a ELU percentage. This is more used for troubleshooting internally, but seeing this at a high percentage as well, is indicative of some functions and other things. I'm spending a lot of time on CPU. So this is the stream sizing calculator, very useful if you want to just do a quick spot check and make sure that your worker nodes are are still right sized. Moving on, another key one that I want to point out, which we've used quite a bit, is our Cribl Throughput Introspection Dashboard. We designed this basically to help us troubleshoot cases where we're resulting in uneven data distribution across worker nodes, things like TCP pinning and some other scenarios that can result in, and just one worker process processing all of the data coming into that worker node. So, going top down, we just have a breakdown here, starting with destinations for total events out and total bytes out. You can select all the destinations that you have configured here. In this case, we're really only using a Splunk destination because this is an internal instance we use for troubleshooting. And we'll get a breakdown of events out and bytes out. But down here in our sources, that's where things get pretty interesting. So in this example, I have my source selected as an S3 source because that's how we're processing data in this Cribl deployment. And I've chosen to split this out by worker process. And I've selected the stack mode to be 100% stacked. You can also, if you have a lot of worker processes, you can set this to unlimited, top 50, top 100, depends on your deployment. But the way this dashboard is used is you want to correlate your total events in panel along with the CPU percentage as well as total bytes in. And in this particular example, we can see that we have certain instances across this time. Let's take this one for example. Seems like around this time we had worker process 2 that was taking in basically all of the events coming in. And as such, that particular worker process was consuming, most all CPU compared to all the other worker processes. And in this case, it was just pegged to 100% CPU. And we can see that this also correlates also with it receiving, the amount of data that's coming in terms of bytes. And this is useful in cases where you suspect that there might be TCP pinning. And in this particular case, for this particular scenario, how we have this set up, it's expected, at least at the time where I ran this search, the way we had this wired up was an S3 input. And the way the S3 input works is that one worker process will process one file at a time. So it is expected in this scenario that you might have one worker process that's consuming all the data, especially if it's just one large file that was deposited into the S3 bucket. In this case, there really isn't much we can do to spread that workload across multiple worker processes because that's just how the product is designed. But if this was a case of syslog data perhaps coming across a load balancer, then that load balancer might not be configured correctly. It might just be pinning that connection to just one worker process. So if that were the case, you could then use this to determine that perhaps I need to revisit my load balancer settings or revisit how my source is sending the data to make sure that it's distributing the data across evenly. In an ideal scenario, you'll see CPU usage be, look like this most of the time, where it's a nice even graph without big spikes like this, where just one worker process is consuming or is busier CPU wise than others. So these are the main dashboards that I wanted to show you, but I can give a quick rundown here. Some other useful ones that we use internally in our own version of this app is our log analytics dashboard, where we can quickly break down any errors that might be happening. If you have debug enabled, you can select this and it'll show you the debug panel, but we have that disabled by default. But here you can quickly see a split down of logs by error by log level infos. And you can split things out by message as well. And if you want to see the actual events, you can quickly click in here. And then this is just a regular, Splunk event timeline. And you can do things like click into the actual search window itself and continue your investigation from there. We have other things for stats. We have dashboards for sources, destinations, some other performance dashboards, audit dashboards, and some other resources here so you can check out known issues, etc. But that's the app in a nutshell. As far as where you can go to get the app, this app is not hosted on Splunkbase, just due to reasons. But the main reason being that we want this app to be community driven. So we want folks like you to actively contribute to this app, which is why we hosted it on GitHub. So you can go to you can go to GitHub. I'll post the link in the channel, but it lives on GitHub. You can download the latest release. You can take this own branch, make your own. You can check in changes. You can file issues. We already have 2 issues filed in here and a couple of pull requests that I need to approve. But this is very much something that I want to be driven by the community. And Splunk Base, unfortunately, doesn't allow for great community collaboration, which is why we're hosting it on GitHub. So yeah, this is the app in a nutshell. I'm happy to open it up, take some questions. I'll stop right here and you folks let me know what you think.
I think that was great. Does anybody have any questions right now, or are you just going to go all scurry off and download it and install it and see what it shows you?
Yeah, I have a question. Like, since we have multiple server group, right? Is there any way to aggregate the results by server groups, by worker groups?
Yeah, so we're working that. The only issue with doing that right now is that in order for us to give you that ability, you're going to have to basically add a field into your data. So we're still discussing the proper solution. So unfortunately, the way our logging works today, our logs don't have a worker group field. So we can't do that aggregation by a worker group yet. And the same goes for metrics. So we're thinking that one of the next releases, we're going to provide you with instructions on how to add that as a field to the metrics and also to the logs, so that you can then, instead of having a host drop down here, we can also have a worker group drop down, or we can have a split by host or worker group and give you that aggregation instead by worker group. But right now we don't have that, but that'll probably come in the next major release of this app.
Got it. Yeah, that will make sense because at large scale deployment, right? Like, since we have more than one worker group, so
Yeah.
where we need to have like metrics based on that each groups.
Yeah, we had a discussion internally, and there's some of the devs have questions on why we should have that as default. So I think the best course here is going to be to have folks add that field in manually. And we're also, just an FYI, we're also working on some future things where there's going to be an associated pack that'll go along with this app to provide better health metrics. So there's some stuff in the works there as well. So we might roll all of that functionality directly into its own, Cribl Vision pack that you can deploy specifically for this app.
Right. And there was a question came in over the chat, which is there any reason this can't be installed in Splunk Cloud?
So right now, so there isn't a reason. However, if you submit this app on your own, it's like your own custom app to get deployed, I think it'll fail app inspect because we have to fix one small thing with how one of our JavaScript files is deployed. So I think I should have that change deployed by the end of the week so that it'll properly pass vetting by the Splunk Cloud folks. But besides that, it shouldn't fail. There's no reason why you can't deploy it. And the only thing that's really causing it to fail app inspect is the little JavaScript widget we use for this pop out here. So
Great. Thanks for the heads up.
Yep.
How about in Cribl Cloud?
Yeah, so Cribl Cloud, we don't give you access to the logs. Last I checked, to forward that out to your own Splunk deployment. Yeah.
So maybe. Well, in a hybrid deployment, you have control of your own workers because your workers still sit on-prem, but the leaders are fully hosted.
Yep.
And I don't believe there's any way to get the leader logs specifically.
No, there isn't a way to get the leader logs from cloud out to you folks because that's something that we're managing. I mean, we do have those logs sitting elsewhere. But yeah, right now there isn't. I mean, and at that point, I mean, in that scenario, ideally, the SREs and everything should be, they have their own dashboards and they're monitoring the health of the leader and a few other things as well. So you should be able still to forward from your hybrid workers. But yeah, you will not be able to get the leader logs. That's correct.
And last question, any good ways to dedupe the PQ size on a time chart to avoid outrageous numbers from the sum of the total bytes?
Yes, I'm curious to see how you have your search wired up and how you're reporting PQ, because the way Let me show you, where is it? So there's a persistent queue analytics dashboard I have here. It's going to show empty in my case because we don't have PQ that's active here. But every single one of these is actually going off of MStats. Yeah, so we're using our metrics. So I'm not sure how you. I guess I can see why you're saying by some. Why don't you hit me up on community and send me the search that you're using and what you're seeing, and we can figure it out.
Perfect.
Yeah. Because instead of using sum, if you just want to see the current PQ size, you can use, instead of sum, you can use last, and it'll show you the last value it saw for that given time slice on your search. So in this case, if I'm slicing everything in buckets of 10 seconds, then it'll report the last PQ size it saw in that 10-second time bucket. So instead of using sum, you can use last instead, if that makes more sense for you.
Oh, yeah. Somebody else has the same issue. So I think we'll need to take that offline and try to figure out the actual answer to that, because we do have another session coming up.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Cool.
Johan.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks you folks. I'll stick around.
Perfect. Great.
Oh, actually, one last thing though. I forgot to mention there is a Cribl Vision channel in our community Slack.
Perfect.
So please join that. You can ask me any questions there, and also ping me directly. But on our community Slack channel. And yeah, please download, play with the app, and provide us with feedback. I'm happy to have a call with anybody that wants to give us their feedback. I know some of you already have your own dashboards, and I would love to see what you've done for your own monitoring purposes, so I can incorporate that into the app. And of course, we'll give you kudos for that.
Perfect.
And perhaps some swag as well.
Perfect. All right. So next up, we have Saurabh. Hope I got your name right.
Yes, that's right.
Perfect. So if you'd like to go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
Perfect. I'll do that.
Yep.
Please confirm that you can see my screen.
See it starting. Yay, there we go.
Lovely. All right. So first of all, thank you, Rich, for giving me the opportunity to present here, and to the wider audience. Here I am to share my experiences in last couple of months. So about the data transformation, which ultimately makes a use case of SIM migration using Cribl. Before I begin, background about myself. My name is Saurabh. I'm working as a senior solutions architect with this Spark solution based in Dubai, UAE. I have been a Splunk practitioner for a long time, and now I have been slicing and dicing data using Cribl. All right, so, okay, here is the agenda. I'll have, as I can see, about 30 minutes. I'll try to cover as briefly as I can, because the topic involves a lot of content. So the agenda, I'll be discussing about the points of the environment, describing about the environment, the before state, what was the actual requirement, the constraints, the migration phase, how and what we did. And after all, we are here for results, right? So the results. All right, so the first thing, I was lately working on a problem where the data is already there in a legacy SIM, which is CEF compatible. And the requirement is that, okay, the data has to go out to a different SIM, and that SIM is a Splunk, right? There are some constraints that the log sources are sitting in an environment which cannot be touched, altered, and the centralized environment on which this whole thing is being run is not having any kind of hook or say on or control on the customer environment. So another constraint again, syslog point and shoot devices can only forward to limited number of destinations. So we don't want to touch the customer environment in that way. And all we have to do is to work around whatsoever data we already have received. And based on that, we have to work on that. Excuse me. We also have to ensure that there is no droppage of the data. So if the data has already received by a legacy SIM, or let's call it a SIM A, the same number of events should be present in SIM B, ensuring that there is a minimal impact on the detection content, meaning the correlation searches, alerts, dashboards, all these things. So let me just quickly share my Cribl instance and show you how and what we did. This is Cribl platform, as you already know. So the first thing first, I created under manage. So the first thing was we were listening from the legacy SIM directly, and it was being listened on the syslog. However, in this setup, to demonstrate and to replicate or mimic that kind of setup, I have created data generators. So over here, I have some sources based on the sample events, which are live right now. They are DNS, Palo Alto, F5 and FortiGate to demonstrate the data transformation. And after this, I have one destination as well, which is pointing to Splunk. Let me show it to you. It is live also. Yeah. Now, after that, what we are doing over here is we have created some routes, and I'll go one by one. So maybe let's take FortiGate. So in this scenario, what I have done is, as you already know, tremendous amount of work has already been done by Cribl team, and there are some packs already available. There is a masterpiece of a pack available, which is CEF Leaf or Cribl Ceph pack. Tremendous work done by, I think, Brandon. So kudos to him. And utilizing the power which is already given by these packs, I have tried to merge them around and played with them. Credit goes to the the Cribl team, of course. And after that, I managed to find my way around it. So I'll just quickly show you some samples, and this is how the raw data look like, quite bulky. And after that, we applied this particular pack. It's a custom pipeline. This one. And over here, if I can quickly show it to you, there are various functions in sequence, right? So the first one is converting the underscore raw and taking, as you can see over here, there is a Ceph header, right? So first thing first, dealing with this thing, we extracted the fields using regex extract. After that, with field extraction, we have also extracted some of the fields which are present in the underscore message. Let me do one thing over here quickly to make this more visible and clear with the first pack. I'll just turn off some of them. All right, so this is in and this is out looking as. With the first one, we are extracting and getting all the CEF related fields as a top level field. And with this function, I'm also getting all the KV pair extracted from the Ceph events. Moving on, I'm just doing some masking because some of the events like this action, I don't want them to look like how they are looking. So there would be some change here. Moving on, there is a parser. I'm keeping it off because I have already done achieved my objective using regex extract. Now moving on, I have this code. Basically, what this code does is, in Ceph format, we have a system of label, right? The keys are in a key value pair along with labels, and the values are in key value pair of some CS level star sort of keys again. So it makes the key value pair look neat and clean. So again, coming from Cribl Ceph pack. So with that, I'm just cleaning my data over here and just putting some top level fields as I want, right? So I have, added some of the fields, index, host, source, host type, which I want at my Splunk instance. I'm just leaving the timestamp thing as of now, but it's very much, whatsoever. If it has been seen that Palo Alto events, FortiGate, these kind of firewall events might have time field at number of places. So it can be picked, replaced, some of the fields are unwanted. Those can be deduplicated and put under underscore time field to do some reduction. Here, I am just excluding some of the fields like proto, source port, etc., just to convert all the fields which are there. For example, I'll show you over here. This is a session ID. Right now, it is showing up as a string. I want to show it to you as number. So I'm utilizing numerify. And yeah, session ID becomes a number. Moving on, my Splunk TA at the destination expects some sort of normalization to align it with CIM compatibility. And that's what I'm trying to achieve over here with the eval. Post this, I'm doing a serialize in JSON format, right? So utilizing this thing, now my raw has been updated into JSON, and just some of the cleanings at the top level, field level. And finally, I'm just slicing and dicing data a little bit. Underscore raw has been renamed to test 121. And I am converting test 121, which is right now showing up. Let me just enable this. Yeah, and save it. So test 121 currently is coming up. Okay, as an string. I want to convert it and parse it as an object. So I'm using json.parse, and it convert this whole thing, test121, into object. I'm putting it as an underscore raw, and finally delivering it to my destination as I have defined it in my route. Okay, so this is how my final data look like. And after it, my data as my route suggests, this FortiGate is going to my AWS Splunk all-in-one. And I can show it to you. This is over here. I have defined this index, which is migration test. And I'll just check for the source type, which is FortiGate traffic. So as of now, there are 1,996 events in total. And if I'm looking for tags, which are important not to, normalize the events, not normalize, rather to put them into my CIM and utilize them in my data models and my existing correlation use cases, alerts, and whatnot. So all these 1,996 events are properly tagged, which is desired outcome which I wanted. On top of that, here, what the data which I am seeing is all these fields are properly and beautifully extracted, clearly mentioned. I mean, yeah, you might say that, okay, there are some slashes, but these can be masked and these can be removed. I have been lately playing with the sample data, and that's why maybe some of the things are showing up. So that's how I managed to get this thing done. Now, moving on, I just want to show you one more, which is for Palo Alto. And this one, I'll just show you from the source. I just want to pause here and check if there is any question or something, any comment.
I don't see anything yet unless somebody wants to hop on. Otherwise, go ahead and keep going.
Perfect. All right, so over here I have Palo Alto here. It's generating some live data into the CEF format. What I have done over here is, if I can show you in my, yeah, these are the sources. Here I have defined a pre-processing. So in this pre-processing, what I am doing is I am taking this CEF format event, excuse me, and converting it to _raw. And that conversion makes that CEF event to look like how it would come from a FortiGate or the Palo Alto device itself without losing any value, right? So when I say that I'm not losing any of the field, etc., those fields, additional fields which are coming from legacy SIM or SIM A are coming as a top level fields, and my _raw has been updated or transformed in a way that looks very similar to how it would look as if it's coming directly from a Palo Alto device. And that's when I'm feeding it to the pack which is already available on Cribl dispensary over here. This one, Cribl Palo Alto networks, to achieve further transformation on this data and moving that data to my destination, right? So just quickly, I'll show it to you, and maybe I'll go into pack, and then let me quickly search follow, not this one, rather this one. Yeah. So one thing I have learned in the whole exercise is that some of the packs are very good starting point, and you can change many things within them and customize it as per your requirement, like how I have done it. And you can further achieve if the use case is about the reduction of volume, yeah, in that case you can further add your own filters or your regular expressions or your conditions in order to achieve further reduction. But if you look at it, FortiGate gives you some certain percentage, or Palo Alto gives you certain reduction out of the box, but those are customizable and can be further increased. It's just that we have to know our environment better, that, okay, what are those particular fields, conditions where we would like Cribl to surgically remove some of the unwanted stuff from my data, which is heading towards SIM. And maybe if I want the original events, I can keep it on S3. So this is how the event look like. And if I just quickly show it to you, I have this Palo Alto data in Ceph format. And if I am passing it with the Ceph processor, which is the pipeline I'm calling it as, and quite a few transformation being performed on this, this is how my data after this pipeline look like. And I would like to showcase to you one serialized function over here. And this is how it look like. Basically, one thing interesting, which is to note that if you look at the documentation of Palo Alto networks traffic events, those are comma separated values, CSV. If you remember, I can show it to you on a FortiGate event. Those are key value pair. I mean, I don't have it in normal format, but definitely those are, if you look at the documentation, those are CSV. So based on the requirement, you have the control within your hands that how you want to tweak or change your data. In my case, I have got what is the serialization order. Based on that order, the best thing I like about Cribl is it gives you each and every field using parser, using regex extract on a very top level, and whatsoever you want to do with it, you have to play with it. You have to transform it further, reserialize it in certain order. You have whole functionality. There are various levers and tools within Cribl which can be utilized in order to further do what you want. So it gives you complete control on your data. So this is really, I mean, I'm a new practitioner for Cribl, and I really enjoyed working on these kind of control related things within the data. So moving on, this is currently how my data look like after this pipeline. So what I'm doing, I'm converting the CEF format Palo Alto event into how it would look like into _raw, and passing this on to my route. Again, this was a pre-processing. The event comes here. This is applied to Palo Alto network spec. And after that, my events go to Splunk all-in-one instance, which in my case is reaching here. Let's look, how is it looking like? So yes, span traffic. So 1,930, and if we look at tags, all these events are getting properly tagged, right? If you look at it, all these fields which are coming from SIEM-A has been retained. And I have this event also, which is aligned with with my TA, which is already on Splunk. So one thing I want to showcase over here is all these tags. These tags are coming from the TA. I'm not updating any tag related control over here on Cribl. I'm just leaving it as is. Maximum what I do is I normalize the data, some of the fields, but for tags, I depend on the TA. And after that, once these tags are applied, if I have some data model running, which in case is network traffic, the events will reflect over there, and accordingly my T-stats and all those search queries which are running behind under the hood for correlation and alerting, etc., they will continue to work as is. I think it's very much similar for other use cases as well. For example, DNS, it's just taken as data generator source, applied the slightly modified version of Cribl CEF-PAC with some slicing and dicing already done, sent to Splunk. Looking at it, this is how it look, CEF processor. And if I look at the raw data from DNS, let's look at it. Yeah, so it's quite bulky data. It's quite a bulky event. In this case, let me just quickly show you the output of this. Look at this. This is how the event look like. So this is exactly how the DNS debug event will look like. Okay, something I have appended over here as a time frame in order to maintain the compatibility with my TA on the Splunk side. However, these timestamp related things can be further updated as per requirement. But the main thing over here is if I send this event to Splunk, it will understand and it will tag it accordingly. Also, all the additional information and fields which I'm getting from the SIEM-A, I'm not losing it. Again, over here, if you go, I just turn this off. And what all source type do I have? This one. Yeah. All right, look at this. I have one simple event. And after that, if I'm running it in verbose, these all fields. Now, in order to, if you look at it, I want to show you one more thing. This is the raw event, right? In one case, the event output was JSON, and let me see what was that. I think it was FortiGate. Yeah, this one. And over here, this one. Yeah. Yes. So this output of underscore raw is JSON object. So Splunk natively understands CSV. For JSON, what I have to do is I had to define for this particular source type within the system local, or rather, instead of system local, within the app local, I went, created a new props, and defined that FortiGate underscore traffic and KV underscore mode equal to auto, or can be defined as JSON, right? With that, it is able to understand, all these fields and get all the fields at the index time. The idea or the objective over here was not to achieve reduction. Reduction, it's a known case. It can be achieved with Cribl for sure. The idea over here was to ensure that while my SIEM A remains functional without making any changes in the customer environment, I have to, work on Cribl with the existing data, which I am already ingesting in SIEM A, take it as a feed and transform it and feed it to another SIEM during the migration phase. It might be taking some time. In the meantime, all these data gets, migrated over to the new SIEM platform, and the correlation searches according to that gets updated. After that, it just change of IP address at the customer environment. You can simply define that, okay, instead of sending all these point and shoot devices on a IP number 1, you just have to send to IP number 2, which could be a worker node sitting in the customer environment in order to reduce the WAN link utilization, or it could be the aggregator worker node sitting in the centralized environment. And so it gives the flexibility to and more control to the administrators without having wide sort of
Right.
heavy lift. The admins are able to achieve the objective of migrating the customer from SIEM A to SIEM B.
Perfect.
I just want to check if there is any question.
And perfect timing too. We're down to just enough time to roll for swag. And are you available then on Slack if people do have some questions about some of the migration techniques and some of the things you did?
Yes, I am on Slack, and you can reach out to me with my first name, Saurabh.
Perfect. All right, great. That was wonderful. I really liked it. It really does. You're right. It just takes the load off between the two tasks. It's like you've got to keep everything working properly while you're transitioning. And this way, then you can pre-test everything, do all the kind of stuff you need to do. And at some point, when they're ready, just flip the switch.
Yeah, just one thing, Rich, if I can take 1 minute. So this was the before state where the customer environment was sending directly to legacy SIM.
Right.
And in the migration phase, the customer environment keep on sending to legacy SIM. Legacy SIM feeds to Cribl system, and Cribl feeds to new SIEM, which is CIM compatible, right? Without losing any event, without losing the value which has been added by the first SIM. And we were able to achieve it. Mission accomplished, and the objective fulfilled.
Great. Perfect. All right, then. I see Aaron's on too. Tony, do we have any quick announcements or anything?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot in the community here. We're actually about to, in the next, couple weeks to a month, launching a redemption store. So any time that you get points on Cribl Curious, it'll accumulate towards getting level ups. And once you every level up, you'll get the option to go into a store and grab a swag item from us. We're also going to be grabbing a lot of data from Slack and feeding it back into the Curious system also. So if you're not on Curious, make sure to sign up so that I can do the correlation between your Slack user ID and your Cribl Curious user ID so that you get those points again to be able to level up and get your information. So if you have questions, you can search Curious to get the answers, hopefully, and we'll be able to go from there.
Cool.
All right, great. Anything to add, Aaron?
I just love seeing, well, I can't say I love seeing everyone's faces. Nobody's sharing their faces, but I love all the people here. There's new folks. I love seeing new folks as well as veteran folks. So thank you. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks everybody for showing up. I guess I'll give you back about 6 minutes of your day. Just remember, if anybody else has something neat they've done or something that they think somebody else might want to see, feel free to ping us and let us know, and maybe you can present at one of these user sessions.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich and Colleen. Thanks,
Yeah,
Tony. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks for presenting.
Yep. Thanks so
And
much.
Thank you,
Johan,
everyone.
on.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Bye.